Malaysia to attend OIC extraordinary meeting on Palestine in Jeddah. Japan and South Korea agree to closer security and economic ties. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Sahih. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Mohamad Hassan will attend the extraordinary meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation OIC on 25th August in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. In a statement, Foreign Ministry said the meeting is convened to discuss Israel's plan to forcibly seize the entire Gaza Strip and its unlawful expansionist vision of a greater Israel. It added the agenda will also cover Israel's plan to construct thousands of illegal settlements in the area between Jerusalem and Mali Adumim in the occupied Palestinian territory. During the meeting, Datuk Seri Mohamad Hassan will also meet his counterparts to discuss joint efforts to end the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza caused by the continued blockade of humanitarian aid by the Israeli regime. 21 countries have condemned Israel's plan to build a controversial illegal settlement in the occupied West Bank, which they say will render a future two-state solution for Palestinians impossible. The countries include the United Kingdom, Australia and Japan. The OIC strongly condemned the Israeli plans, calling them illegal under international law and warned they threaten the two-state solution and impose de facto annexation. At least 63 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks across Gaza as Israeli forces push deeper into Gaza City as part of their effort to seize the city and forcibly displace about 1 million people. Footage on Saturday showed Israeli tanks advancing into the Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City, signaling an expansion of the Israeli military's ground invasion of the area. Sabra is near the besieged Zitun neighborhood, which has been increasingly targeted by the Israeli army over the past week. Al-Ahli Hospital said a child was killed in the latest Israeli bombardment of Sabra. Early on Saturday, Israel fired artillery at tents sheltering displaced families in the Asda area northwest of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, killing 16 people, including 6 children. At least 22 Palestinians were killed while seeking humanitarian aid throughout the day, including a Palestinian who was shot dead by Israeli forces near a distribution point close to the so-called Morak axis southeast of Khan Yunis. Another civilian seeking aid was shot dead near the Israeli-controlled Netzarim corridor. Palestinian health authorities said 8 more Palestinians, including 2 children, died from malnutrition over the past 24 hours, raising the total death toll to 281 since Israel's war on Gaza began nearly 2 years ago. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung agreed on Saturday to closer security and economic ties ahead of Lee's planned summit with US President Donald Trump on Monday. On his first official visit to Japan since taking office in June, Lee met Ishiba at the Premier's residence in Tokyo to discuss bilateral ties between the East Asian neighbours, including closer security coordination with the United States under a trilateral pact signed by their predecessors. The leaders agreed to resume shuttle diplomacy, expand exchanges such as working holiday programs, and step up cooperation in defence, economic security, artificial intelligence and other areas. They also pledged closer coordination against North Korea's nuclear and missile threats.
급변하는 국제 정세 속에서 흔들림 없는 한일, 한미일 협력이 무엇보다 중요하다는 점에 인식을 같이 하며 한일 관계 발전이 한미일 협력 강화로 이어지는 선순환을 만들어 가기로 하였습니다.
Despite their differences, the two US allies rely heavily on Washington to counter China's growing regional influence. Together, they host around 80,000 US troops, dozens of American warships, and hundreds of military aircraft. India's foreign minister said on Saturday that trade negotiations with Washington are continuing, but there are lines that New Delhi needs to defend just days before hefty additional US tariffs are due to hit. Indian goods face additional US tariffs of up to 50%, among the highest imposed by Washington due to its increased purchases of Russian oil. A 25% tariff has already come into effect, while the remaining 25% is set to be enforced from 27 August. A planned visit by US trade negotiators to New Delhi from August 25th to 29 has been called off, dashing hopes that the levies may be lowered or postponed. India-US trade talks collapsed earlier this year due to India not agreeing to open its vast agricultural and dairy sectors. Bilateral trade between the world's largest and fifth largest economy is worth over $190 billion. Jaishankar also said Washington's concern over India's Russian oil purchases was not being applied to other major buyers such as China and the European Union. The ministers added that India's purchases of the Russian oil had not been raised in earlier trade talks with the current US administration before the public announcement of tariffs. Sri Lanka's jailed former president was rushed to intensive care at a state hospital on Saturday, a day after being charged with misusing government funds for foreign travel. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was remanded in custody on Friday night, was severely dehydrated and required close monitoring. Deputy Director General of Colombo National Hospital, Dr. Rukshan Balana, said Wickremesinghe was a severe diabetic with high blood pressure when he was brought in but remained in stable condition. He was taken to Sri Lanka's main state-run hospital as his condition deteriorated and the prison medical facility was not equipped to treat him, a prison spokesperson said. Opposition legislators who visited 76-year-old Wickremesinghe in prison earlier in the day reported that he had been in good spirits. Opposition parties have accused the government of jailing him over fears he could return to power. Wickremesinghe lost the last presidential election in September to Anura Kumara Dissanayake, but has remained politically active despite holding no elected position. He was arrested on Friday as part of Disayanake's campaign against endemic corruption in the island nation, which is emerging from its worst economic meltdown in 2022. The total trade volume between China and other Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) member states reached nearly $300 billion from January to July, marking a 1.8% year-on-year increase. According to China's Ministry of Commerce, regional economic cooperation among SCO member states has seen steady progress. Over the past 5 years, China's trade with other SCO members have surpassed milestone of $300 billion, $400 billion and $500 billion, reaching $512.4 billion in 2024, an all-time high. Notably, new business forms and emerging sectors have grown rapidly. In 2024, China's e-commerce imports from other SCO members surged by 34%, attracting more premium products and local specialties to enter the Chinese market. Investment as well as economic and trade cooperation has advanced steadily. As of July this year, China's total investment stock in other SCO member states had exceeded $40 billion, with cooperation projects expanding from traditional areas like energy, mining, and infrastructure to emerging fields like digital economy and green development. Coming up next, weather changes help Spain manage wildfires.
Tempat ini pernah hidup dengan suara. Mengangkat tangan melaungkan harapan. Di sinilah mereka berdiri. Membawa satu suara. Mengubah takdir bangsa. Kini yang tinggal hanya sunyi dan kenangan yang semakin menghilang. Tapi jiwa itu tidak pernah pudar. Dan suara itu tidak pernah mati. Janji setia takkan dilupakan. Perniagaan bukan milik masa lalu, tapi amanah yang kita pegang untuk masa depan.
Bersatu hati bangkit bersama, Malaysia gagah selamanya. Merdeka! Merdeka! Merdeka!
Dulu, mereka bersuara demi masa depan. Dan kini, warisan mereka ada di suara kita. Spain is finally gaining control over the wildfires that have devastated parts of the country this month, killing 4 people and scorching vast areas of land. Emergency officials say the situation is improving with fewer fires still burning. Some blazes remain dangerous. Authorities warn that a final push is still needed to bring the emergency fully under control. Firefighters spotted by teams from other EU countries have been battling flames that have destroyed more than 400,000 hectares across Spain. The hardest hit regions are in the north and west of the country, including Castile and Leon, Extremadura and Galicia. These areas are already struggling with rural depopulation, aging communities and decline of traditional farming. These factors have left large parts of the countryside increasingly vulnerable to wildfires. The fires were driven by a punishing 2-week heat wave with temperatures soaring above 40 degrees Celsius and fanned by strong winds that only recently began to ease. As of Saturday, 18 wildfires were still active, with most posing a continued threat to people and property. While many villages remain evacuated, some residents have been allowed to return to their homes since Friday. Hainan and Guangdong provinces in South China have been placed on alert as Typhoon Kajiki is forecast to bring gales and rainstorms. It will be the 13th typhoon of the year. On Saturday, Hainan activated a level 4 emergency response for flood and typhoon control. This is as strong winds and downpours are expected to hit its sea areas and islands, according to the Provincial Disaster Prevention, Mitigation and Relief Commission. Similarly, Guangdong Province has also been placed under a level 4 emergency response for typhoon control. This measure is due to strengthened wind conditions in the province's coastal waters. According to Guangdong's Provincial Meteorological Observatory, heavy rains and strong winds are forecast to sweep the Lijiao Peninsula and the coastal areas of the cities of Maoming, Yangjiang and Jiangmen between Sunday and Monday. Typhoon Kajiki developed from a tropical depression over the South China Sea on Saturday morning. Its center was located around 770 kilometers east of Hainan Sanya city over the sea, with a maximum wind speed of 18 meters per second. The typhoon is forecast to continue moving in a west-northwest direction at about 25 km per hour. It is likely to make landfall or pass close to the southern coast of Hainan Island around Sunday evening before heading toward the central and northern coastal regions of Vietnam. India's top federal investigating agency has opened a criminal case against industrialist Anil Ambani and his company Reliance Communications Limited. The move follows a complaint by India's largest bank alleging fraud involving the telecom firm. State Bank of India alleged that Anil Ambani, the younger brother of billionaire Mukesh Ambani, and Reliance Communications defrauded the bank, causing 30 billion Indian rupees of losses. India's Central Bureau of Investigation conducted search operations in Mumbai at Anil Ambani's house and the offices of now insolvent Reliance Communications. A spokesperson for Ambani told the media that the searches at his residence concluded yesterday afternoon. Ambani strongly denies all allegations and charges and will duly defend himself, the spokesperson said. The agency said Anil Ambani and his company misused and diverted bank funds for purposes other than what was agreed. Last month, India's Enforcement Directorate also searched 35 locations linked to Reliance Group as part of an investigation into alleged money laundering and siphoning of public funds. Poste Italiane on Saturday joined other European postal service providers in halting most parcel shipments to the United States. This is as US Customs moves to impose duties on low-value packages, with India's Postal Department announcing the same step. The company said it will immediately stop accepting all shipments containing goods bound for the United States. France, Germany, Belgium, Austria and Denmark have already announced such suspensions. India's Postal Department on Saturday also announced a temporary suspension of postal services to the US starting Monday. This measure is done with the exception of letters, documents, and gift items valued at up to $100. The decision followed President Donald Trump's 30th July executive order to end the duty-free exemption for imports valued at up to $800 effective 29 August. Greece is facing a growing demographic crisis. Its population has been shrinking by more than 400,000 over the past 13 years. New data published by Greek media on Saturday shows that the country's population has fallen from just over 10.8 million in 2011 to around 10.4 million as of January 2024. The figures highlights a steady decline driven by falling birth rates, an aging population, and continued migration out of the country. Research from the University of Thessaly warns the trend is likely to persist for decades. Deaths continue to outnumber birth, and the proportion of elderly residents is rising steadily. In 2023, Greece recorded only 72,300 births, about half the average seen during the baby boom decades of the 1950s and 60s. Fertility rates remain far below replacement level, with women born around 1980 averaging just 1.3 to 1.4 children. Meanwhile, nearly 23% of the population is now over the age of 65, outnumbering children by nearly a million. Experts say the country's 2011 financial crisis accelerated decline. That downturn pushed many young Greeks to leave the country in search of better opportunities abroad, while others delayed starting families due to economic uncertainty. Still to come in sports is a return to Arsenal in front of adoring fans. Arsenal announced the signing of Berita Eze from Crystal Palace on Saturday in a homecoming for the 27-year-old attacking midfielder who began his youth career at the North London club. The signing of Eze, who can also play as a winger, not only bolsters the squad for a title charge, but is also a coup for Arsenal, with rivals Tottenham Hotspur in heavily linked with him. Financial details were not disclosed, but British media said Arsenal paid around £68 million to win the transfer tug-of-war and hand him the number 10 shirt. Although Spurs were also negotiating a transfer to sign Eze, Arsenal swooped when German forward Kai Havertz was sidelined with a knee injury. Signing Eze takes Arsenal's close season spend to over £260 million after they also signed Victor Gyökeres, Martin Zubimendi, Christian Nogard, Christian Mosquera, Noni Madueke, and Kepa Arrizabalaga. Eze said he had always hoped to play for Arsenal, once revealing how being let go from the academy at the age of 13 left him in tears, as it was the hardest thing he had been through. Al Ahly beat Al Nassr 5-3 on penalties to win the Saudi Super Cup final in Hong Kong after a dramatic 2-all draw on Saturday, as Cristiano Ronaldo netted his 100th goal for the losing side. Portugal forward Ronaldo 40 opened the scoring the 40th minute from the penalty spot to reach the milestone after Al Majrashi was penalised for handball. Al Ahly, who won this year's Asian Champions League title, responded in first half stoppage time through Frank Cassie, who finished low pass Al Nassr keeper Bento after a well-placed pass from new signing Enzo Milot. Both sides pushed for a win in the second half, and Ronaldo tested Edouard Mendy with a powerful strike before Firas Albuquerque struck the post. Marcelo Brozovic restored Al Nassr's lead in the 82nd minute, capitalising on poor clearance and firing home from inside the box. Al Ahly equalised again in the 89th minute, however, when Roger Ibanez headed in a Riyad Mahrez corner after Bento misjudged the ball. In the shootout, Al Ahly converted all 5 penalties, and although Ronaldo converted his spot kick, Al Nassr missed one to hand the Jeddah-based club the second Saudi Super Cup title. Ducati's Marc Marquez led from start to finish at the Balaton Park circuit to win his 13th sprint in 14 rounds this season, with a commanding victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix on Saturday to extend his championship lead to 152 points. Marquez was joined on the podium by VR46 racing riders Fabio Di Gantotano and Franco Morbidelli, with Luca Marini finishing fourth to give Honda a rare boost. An incident-packed opening lap saw three riders crash out in separate incidents, with Yamaha's Fabio Quartararo the biggest culprit when he was involved in a collision on turn 1. Rasmi Racing's Alex Marquez, second in the championship, finished 8th, while Marc's teammate Francisco Bagnaia, third in the table, came a lowly 13th. It was Marquez's 7th straight sprint win, and the Spaniard has been undefeated in sprints and races since the British Grand Prix in May. Meanwhile, a podium spot brought both joy and redemption for Morbidelli, who had missed 2 races due to injury after a crash at the German Grand Prix and also crashed twice in Friday's practice. Belgian sprinter Jasper Philipsen won the opening stage of the Vuelta a España on Saturday, powering his way to victory in a high-speed bunch sprint. The opening 4 stages of the 21-day race start in Italy before a switch to Spain. The 186.1-kilometer race set off from Turin in bright sunshine and 23 Celsius on its way through the flat and windless plains of the Po Valley and its rice paddies. Hitting the final 2.7-kilometer run in Navarra, Philipsen controlled the sprint as the peloton launched itself into a lengthy home straight. He had the stage in the bag from 500 meters out, but still had to hold off a superb performance from Briton Ethan Vernon of IPT, who took second. Venezuelan rider Orleans Alua of Movistar took third. There were 10, 6 and 4 second bonus points for the top 3. Arkea's Italian rider Alessandro Verre took the first mountains jersey, crossing the top of the only climb of the day, a 6.4-kilometer ascent and at a 5.3% incline after 64 kilometers. Sunday's 160-kilometer run from Alba culminates in a 10-kilometer climb to the ski resort of Limon at 1,385-meter altitude, with the potential for a skirmish between the GC rival Jonas Vingegaard and Joan Ayuso. The Limon ascent is the first of 10 summit finishes on the 2025 Vuelta, all featuring over 3,000 meters of vertical gain and marking out this Grand Tour as an extremely mountainous one. Robotic Advancement Showcase at Taiwan Automation Intelligence and Robot Show. That next in our Offbeat segment. Humanoid robots walked, gestured and picked up objects at the Taiwan Automation Intelligence and Robot Show 2025 that kicked off in Taipei on Wednesday, drawing a steady stream of curious crowds. Artificial intelligence chip giant NVIDIA's branding was featured prominently across multiple displays at the exhibition, even amid concerns about higher tariffs to be announced by US President Donald Trump. Despite the financial uncertainty, Chief Operating Officer of Techman Robot Scott Huang believed customers would still pay for reliable and superior robotic technology.
人形机器人已经不像传统的机器人一样，可以透过工程师去用 program 的方式让它完成动作，所以 AI 能够推论，让它能够完成任务，才是能够解决这个问题。因为它自由度太多了，已经超过那个想象。所以呢，就说那目前呢，当然以全世界来说，目前 NVIDIA 提供的这些虚拟平台跟资料的生成，它算是最为 open 的。那目前也是为什么我们跟他们有这样子长期的合作。
At the exhibition, the company showcased its first humanoid robot, which was fully made in Taiwan. The 4-day trade show ran until Saturday, featuring exhibitors from across the globe. To mark 75 years of Formula One, 34 cars representing each of the motorsport's world champions will line up at England's Silverstone circuit, the track that hosted the first ever Formula One World Championship in 1950. With most of the cars driven by each of the world champions in their actual championship win year, a historic display was put on at the Silverstone Festival, an annual celebration of Formula One racing that attracts close to 800 race entries and draws a crowd of more than 100,000. The car collection boasts historic rides from veterans like Ayrton Senna and Jackie Stewart to contemporary idols like Lewis Hamilton and current F1 world champion Max Verstappen.
Well, it's actually amazing how somebody has managed to talk all of the owners into allowing them to come out of captivity and all be in the same place at once. But I'd hate to be the insurance company that's insuring it, because it's terrifying to think what they're worth.
The car collection, which is worth hundreds of millions of pounds, took the organisers 11 months to assemble. This one-of-a-kind car collection shows how the sport and its cars have evolved over the decades, reflecting changing technologies and sponsor logos. Couples from around the world dance in various categories at the Buenos Aires Tango World Championship on Saturday, showcasing their skills in the Argentine capital's most prestigious tango event. Italian dancers Paolo Viaggi and Ilaria Napoleoni, competing for the first time, described the experience as a whirlwind of emotions, saying they usually teach tango as a social dance but wanted to explore its competitive side.
Siamo stati chiamati subito perché abbiamo partecipato alla prima ronda ed è stata ancora di più emozionante perché appena siamo arrivati subito eravamo sul palcoscenico e per noi è la prima volta che facciamo una competizione, anche se abbiamo una scuola in Italia, siamo maestri, insegniamo tango, sono tanti anni che balliamo tango, però abbiamo vissuto il tango sempre come un ballo sociale e che si può ballare o che tutti possono ballarlo e non avevamo mai pensato alla competizione, che poi è un qualcosa in più rispetto al tango come ballo sociale.
The two-week festival, featuring over 500 activities and renowned artists, is the largest tango gathering in the world, according to city officials. Tango, born in Buenos Aires working-class neighborhoods in the late 19th century, has become a global cultural phenomenon, with the championship drawing hundreds of couples each year. That wraps up World Today this time around. In our top story, Malaysia to attend OIC Extraordinary Meeting on Palestine in Jeddah. For business news updates, do join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 or saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Sahih Samsudin, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat, Disantuni. Thank you for watching.